The other side of it too, in how we use technology for an in-person experience, is we like to track what you do. So for instance, if we see that all you do is you're hopping on the treadmill, for 30 minutes or an hour every single day, and all you do is cardio, and you're wondering why you're not able to lose weight, maybe because you need to incorporate more strength in, or if all you're doing is strength, not the other one. So balance and being able to use technology to provide feedback. So as a gym owner, you might not have that one-on-one session with that individual, but you could still see their data, and you might reach out to them via an email or push notification and say, hey, we noticed that you're doing a lot of this. Here are some recommendations for you, and maybe point them out to content that you might have online. So it really depends on the type of product that you have in person and what you're offering. But we look at each client separately and kind of craft something for their consumer.
At Active Life, we believe that the healthcare clinic of the future is the gym.
Everybody starts with the best case scenario in mind.
Never sell anything to anybody who is not in the market for what you have.
The only reason we work out is to create the opportunity to recover.
And the healthcare provider of the future is the coach.
And this is why you guys need to get paid well, because what you're doing is really, really hard work.
Mohammed Iqbal, welcome to the Active Life podcast. I appreciate you joining us today.
I'm really glad to be on, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny how we were talking before the show, and it's amazing how few degrees of separation there are between strangers, relative strangers in the world, right? I mean, we are a half of a degree of separation from each other at any given time, and it's never actually connected until now.
Yes. No, but that I think is so true of fitness. And we'll get into this later on, but even closer in fitness technology. But I kind of feel like in the fitness world, especially in the Northeast, we might not know each other, but we know each other.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well be in California, and we would,
yes.
we might still know each other because people move around so much nowadays.
That's
true. I mean, you brought up a mutual friend that we have who lives in Texas now.
That's true. James. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. James Quigley. So
shout
out to James. Yes. Yes, he did. So Mohammed, I imagine that because of the way that your business faces, you're servicing event planners, you're servicing gyms in a smaller way, but you're servicing event planners at scale, the New York City Marathon, some of the biggest events in the world. Can you introduce yourself to our audience just so they can get friendly with you a little bit as well?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Mohammed Iqbal, Sean, as you introduced me earlier on. Thank you for having me on the show. I started this digital agency called SweatWorks in April of 2012. And our main focus is to get people to move, like use technology, use fitness to get people more active. And our primary mission is how can we use the things that we do well to reach more people? And we do that by working with events, by working with gyms, and by creating great products.
Well, so you make things like running an event in your gym, even though if I have a small gym and I want to run an event, you're not going to jump up and down because you landed the 100 people who were competing in my event at my gym as an account. But one of the things we were talking about before was how things like that, small events like my event that I used to think was huge when we had 1,200 athletes compete at Flex on the Beach in New York City or in Long Beach, New York. Small events like that are a place for you to be able to create opportunity to try things and to then grow them out for bigger things. Can you get into that a little bit?
Absolutely. Look, I think fitness is really personal. And when we look at big gyms and we look at big events and these massive productions, people forget that at the end of the day, the key to fitness, and we're kind of going back into that in 2021, is about making it personal. It's about the one-on-one connections. If I were to take a step back and move that into events, event evolution and progress in events and where events are going, that innovation actually happens in the smaller scale events. So we might see something happening at your event, on Flex on the Beach, working with 1,200 people, which is still an event at scale. It's not easy to put on. And we might innovate and come up with features, come up with a new way to score, come up with a new way to run heats, come up with a new way to check in. And because we were able to define it, work through with it, develop it at a mid-size or small event, a year or two down the road, you will see the technology at a much larger event that might have 50,000 people in it.
Mohammed, the thing about you that most draws me in, that makes me most interested is, despite, I mean, you have a great company, and that's all cool. And I know a lot of people who have great companies. The thing that draws me in is the fact that your company is intertwined with your purpose. And before we came on the air, you were talking about the idea that there's this adage that as we grow older, we just stop being fit. We just stop being healthy. It's commonplace and acceptable to stop being healthy. In fact, it almost goes from like in your 20s, if you're not healthy, people say, what are you doing with yourself? And then when you're in your 50s, if you're really working to be healthy, or in your 40s or 30s even, sometimes people will be like, you're a health nut. Like you're just a health nut. Why? Because I watch what I eat and I exercise. That makes me a nut. Can you speak to why that drew you into starting the company that you did when you had so many opportunities in front of you that had nothing to do with this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that to your point, I believe fitness is the key to unlocking so much in life. And whether that is family, whether it's work productivity, whether it's spending time with the children. You mentioned you've got 3 kids. I've got 2 kids, and you want to be there for them and you want to feel great. And to me, fitness, and I'll get into how it became that way, is as simple as drinking water or sitting down for a meal. It's a part of my life. It's that critical. And doing it the right way and having the knowledge to take the valuable time that you have, invest it in yourself to make the other parts of yourself better. And that's key. Early in my career, in my 20s, I was working for a large company in New Jersey and was doing great. But I still felt like it wasn't my passion. I was always involved in fitness. And a lot of people are saying, you know what, once you start working, your fitness is going to slip. You won't be able to go to the gym. You won't be able to eat healthy because you'll be rushing between meals. That didn't happen. I still went to the gym in the morning. I still made really healthy choices. I still drank my water. I still took my supplements. And you know what? I felt better than ever. And then I got married. I also got divorced. We can get into that. I had kids. And you know what? My fitness got better. In some cases, it even improved. What I lost in strength, I gained in endurance and speed. I'll give you an example. I turned 40 in June. And even though we're in the midst of a pandemic right now, I ran a virtual half marathon in March and I PR'd. I did it in 1:24. And that's just before I turned 40. And so for people to think that you lose fitness or you lose endurance, I don't think that's true. I think even if you're starting and you're 50, you have an opportunity to be stronger than you were when you were 20, because now with technology and with all the tools, like things that you do, Sean, in terms of fitness and recovery, we know so much more. For example, I think fitness is not just going to the gym and moving heavy weights around. It's really a lifestyle approach. Yes, you need to move some heavy weights around, but yes, you have to focus on recovery. You have to focus on how flexible you are. You have to focus on nutrition, how much water you drink, how you sleep. All of that matters. And it's also not just about strength. You have to combine strength with flexibility, with endurance. We know that today. I think when you and I were roughly about the same age, we didn't have all this wealth of information available to us that easily. And we didn't have as many experts, like yourself, just available to us, where we could go into a facility or we could book an appointment with. We just had, in most parts, or most cases, personal trainers at gyms that felt very standoffish, that were very expensive. And ultimately, that's why I got into this business, is because I felt like we had an opportunity to use technology to make all of this knowledge more accessible to more people.
I love that, because you're speaking to my soul, Mohammed. It's the idea of, you recognize a problem that I don't know if you went through this, and I'm curious. The proverbial you researches the solution to the problem that you're experiencing and assume that it must be out there. Somebody must have developed a solution to this. And you find things where, people have tried. There are pieces of what you would have done in their shoes, but nobody has done it the way that you believe it should be done. And then instead of saying, man, that sucks, I wish somebody would create that, you go out and you do it. Was that a process that you went through?
No, that's exactly it, Sean. You know, I've always been into fitness, and I would always wonder, like, you'd walk into a place and I'm like, why isn't the gym more welcoming? Why is this huge bar of entry, whether it's on what you wear, what you feel? Why aren't people more friendlier? Or why can't, if I went to an event to run a marathon, for example, I'd wonder, well, why is race packet pickup the day before? Why can't I check in with my iPhone the day of? Why do I have to fill out a paper waiver? Like, what is going on here? Like, why do we have all of these things? And it really turned out that there's a problem and no one addressed it. And all of these problems are friction points. And the more friction points you have, the more difficult it is to get someone who isn't into fitness to get them to enter it. Because now, if you think about it, like to go into a gym, you have to commit to a membership. There's an initiation fee, and then you've got to think about what do you wear? What time do you wake up at? You have so much to think about, and already you've lost a person, right? You've lost that person. Now it's another person's going to sit on the couch and watch more Netflix. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to make fitness fun. I wanted to make it feel premium. I wanted to make it feel engaging. And today we're able to use technology to do that. And of course, what happened with the pandemic has accelerated a lot of those developments. But I feel like in almost 9 years in doing what we do, we've achieved a lot of those objectives.
How do you go about making something like an in-person fitness experience feel more welcoming with technology? You know, I think that when people hear that, one of the things I'm always fascinated by with people who are wired the way that you are, which is, you know, from the little I know about you and the brief conversation that we've had, wired to solve problems through process and the idea that there is a solution if we can connect this side to this side. We just have to figure out how to connect those two sides. That the analytical, exploratory mind that it must take to be able to do that. The thing I find fascinating about that is I can't relate at all to doing it with technology. And so when I think about going into a gym and having technology make me feel more greeted, have technology make me feel more welcome, it makes me immediately ask the question, well, how could that possibly happen? I would love to hear how you do that.
Yeah, I think the root of everything is a personal connection. And that's important and fundamental to what we do. One, I think I distinctly recognize the value of what an expert can bring to an individual, what a good trainer, what a good coach can bring to an individual. You've been in this industry for a while, and then you've trained hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if I walk into your office or you saw me walk into your gym, just from the way I'm walking, you can probably identify, and you might say, I've got limited shoulder mobility, or I've got, ankle issues or knee issues, or I've a hip issue. You could see that and you can recognize that. So then I'm going to meet with you and sit down and say, hey, Mohammed, I noticed these things about you. Let's try to do these movements. They're like, okay, I see you've got limited shoulder mobility here. Do you have plantar fasciitis? Because it seems like you might from the way that you're running on the treadmill. What we try to do is to say, well, most people don't have that luxury. They don't have the luxury to have the one-on-one engagement, right? They can't just open the door and walk in. For people to go into a gym, they have to go through a check-in process. Then they're presented with a whole bunch of equipment. If they go into a class, it feels unwelcoming because they don't know people around them. So we want to remove that. We do that in a few ways. One, we evaluate the entire experience, and we want it to feel like I
didn't hear what you said. You what the entire experience?
We look at the entire experience. We evaluate it. So we look at everything from, honestly, the parking lot. How easy is it to go from the car into the facility? Obviously, today we want to limit, things that you touch and those types of areas. But for an in-person fitness experience, we do things like, making checking into your gym easy. Or when you show up, if it's your birthday, wouldn't it be great to know that, hey, Sean, happy birthday. Or, hey, Sean, welcome to the gym. I see that you've got a training session booked. Your trainer's waiting for you by the squat rack, or they'll see you out by the pool. we try to reduce how much you have to think and get you more focused on the fitness that's about to come. So that's one part. It's a mindset. The other side of it too, in how we use technology for an in-person experience, is we like to track what you do. So for instance, if we see that all you do is you're hopping on the treadmill, for 30 minutes or an hour every single day, and all you do is cardio, and you're wondering why you're not able to lose weight, maybe because you need to incorporate more strength in, or if all you're doing is strength, not the other one. So balance and being able to use technology to provide feedback. So as a gym owner, you might not have that one-on-one session with that individual, but you could still see their data, and you might reach out to them via an email or push notification and say, hey, we noticed that you're doing a lot of this. Here are some recommendations for you, and maybe point them out to content that you might have online. So it really depends on the type of product that you have in person and what you're offering. But we look at each client separately and kind of craft something for their consumer.
I think that it immediately connected for me when you talked about your trainers waiting for you by the pool. And I'll tell you why. I imagine the little things that as a consumer in any industry that make it feel more luxury, that where your friends who haven't experienced that would be like, that's bougie. Like, how did that work? Where it's really not, it's just service, delivered at a high level. And I imagine the days when I used to work at Equinox as a trainer, and I would always make it my goal to be at the front desk when my clients would walk in, because I wanted them to see me at the front desk, not to have to wait for me. And so I would book, 10 minutes in between sessions to say, okay, I'm going to be at the front desk when my client arrives, so that there is no thought for them. And I remember doing that distinctly because there were people who were supposed to train with other trainers who would come up to me and say, have you seen Matt? Have you seen Adrian? And I would say, yeah, they're upstairs on the second floor by the stretching tables. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
But then how do I get there?
Right. But just that's not only how do I get there, but the simple act of like walking in, having the trainer be able to tell the front desk, this is where I am. I have a session coming up in 10 minutes. Please notify the client. And the client showing up in the front desk saying, Matt's upstairs waiting for you by the stretching tables. He has your first workout already set up.
Yep.
That is awesome.
Yeah. No, I think, look, being personal is one. Let's go a little bit further with that training experience. Something that we're also keenly aware of is life in general. Now, for most of our brands, I'd say on average, what success looks like for them, whether it's digital or whether it's in person, is 3 to 4 sessions, about 45 minutes of actual fitness. If we can get you engaged for 3 to 4 sessions for about 45 minutes per week, that's winning, right? That's success.
For sure.
But when you really extrapolate that is, less than 3% of their time in the week.
Yeah.
So you're focused on improving someone's entire life, but you only have them in front of you for 3% of that week. Well, how can you have meaningful impact when you only are able to address them one-on-one for 3% of the time? So what we do is we say, okay, we need to give you more tools. So another way that we use technology is to say, as a trainer, you're not going to have visibility into how your client slept, how active your client was. So when they come in, and they might, you might be meeting Mark at the front desk, and you already know that, he just walked 25,000 steps in New York the day before. Maybe getting him in for a cardio session today is not the best thing, or strength session is not the best thing. Let's focus on flexibility. Let's use the session to introduce foam rolling and the benefits of that to him. Let's do that. So that's another way that we use technology that's really, really been helpful, because again, you only know what they typically tell you. And because you're also training your clients on what's important, not just the actual movements, they might not know what to tell you. They might not recognize the fact that, hey, I was just on a red eye and I just came from California, that's important to you.
Yeah.
Right. Or I had a horrible night of sleep because my baby kept me up all night. That's important to you. If you had a bad night of sleep, then you shouldn't be overly exerting yourself. That information has not been made available to most trainers. So imagine if you're a good trainer and if you know what to do with that, it would adjust your session. So we try to use technology to say, even before the person shows up at the front desk, you're saying, hey, you know what? I see that you ran 8 miles yesterday. I was going to have you warm up today with a 3 mile run, but let's get on the bike instead.
I love that. We're going to do business together. We're going to do business together. Yeah. So, my sister is a great phys ed teacher. And when her students would come into the class, she had a mood board and they had to take a face and put it next to their name. So she knew they were happy today. They were frustrated today. They were sad today. They were excited today, whatever it was, elementary school kids. And the amount of support that she was able to provide to the kids just by knowing the way that they felt when they showed up to class was transformative in their ability to actually have a successful experience in our class. So providing coaches with the tools, trainers with the tools to know my client ran yesterday all over the city to buy Christmas gifts for his wife or whatever, and he's stressed from it. And so last night he didn't sleep very well. Maybe I don't bury him today. That's extremely valuable. One of the things that we talk to trainers about is the idea that stress, diet, and sleep are a major factor, and you need to account for them when you design programs and pivot on them when you find something. The question I have for you, Mohammed, is do you find any resistance from consumers on either end, the B2B or the client, to utilizing the technology where it's not a habit? And so they're like, I don't want to add another thing to do every day. I want to just show up and do what I always do. Are you seeing resistance to that?
So the answer to that is really different pre-COVID to in current and then post-COVID.
Yeah.
One of the silver linings of the lockdown, silver linings for consumers, is that the evolution of consumers into digital fitness and accepting digital fitness was really accelerated by 3 to 5 years. And what I mean by that is because gyms closed down in March, a couple of things happened. One, not only did gyms close down, so people that were going to gyms, going to boutique fitness, going to their CrossFit boxes could no longer go. That's one. But then you also had a whole bunch of other consumers that were never into fitness who were just stuck at home and needed a way to move and needed a way to engage. So you had this 2 cohorts of consumers, ones that were into fitness and ones that were not, now looking for other ways to, enhance their lockdown life. When they turned into digital fitness, it then allowed them to understand, wow, let me go out and get a watch. Let me go out and wear a heart rate monitor. Let me go get a Whoop, right? I mean, if you look at the sales of Peloton, the surges of Strava, the surge of Whoop, the surge of digital fitness in general, it was at a pace that's never been seen before. And because of that, the awareness of all of these tools also went up. I mean, use Zoom, for example. I can use, Zoom is now a household name because of the pandemic. You and I might have been on Zoom for many years. But because of the pandemic, it now became a household name. I think just like that, the acceptance of tracking and the benefits of it to the broader consumer became more well-known. So pre-COVID, I think, people were wondering, you know what? I'm just going to show up every day and give it all I've got. What they didn't understand is that might now result in overtraining, and overtraining results in injury. And instead, with post-COVID, now that they're tracking their steps, they're more aware of recovery, they're more aware of stress. I mean, let's talk about the importance of mindfulness and what, and how managing mindfulness has become important during the lockdown. I think today, the broader consumer is a lot more accepting of it. So what we're going to find when gyms reopen, I know they've reopened partially in certain states, but once they do truly fully reopen and people start going back into the gym, trainers are probably going to be delighted to know that you're getting a more informed consumer coming in. Again, a consumer who's more open to understanding the impacts of other things in their life to achieving their fitness goals.
I think the other valuable thing that trainers will have is the clarity that my client would rather be in the gym than be at home. And no disrespect to companies like Peloton, who are absolutely crushing, not only as a business, but my wife has a Peloton in the house. I use it. It is a phenomenal service experience. It's a really good experience. So they're doing a great job delivering a high level service. What trainers will know when their clients show up is they'd rather be here. They know about the technology now. They know about the things that they could do at home, and they've chosen to come here anyway. How do you, as a technology company and as the founder of the technology company, how do you help trainers and gym owners understand technology is not your enemy? You don't need to fear technology replacing the humanity in the fitness business. You do need to leverage it, though. How do you have that conversation with them?
You know, it's something that I've been talking about a lot these last couple of weeks. I mean, quite honestly, Sean, you mentioned Peloton. And when the vaccine was introduced, or news of the vaccine was introduced about 3 weeks ago, the Peloton stock took a dive, right? I think by 30% at its lowest point.
Time to buy.
I saw posts on LinkedIn and on social media, and gyms were cheering. Gym owners were cheering and said, this is the best news I've heard in several months. And I couldn't help myself but to say, first of all, we're all in fitness, and our ultimate objective should be to make fitness more accessible and get more people moving it and get the broader population that is so unhealthy healthier now more than ever. So for us to be cheering a brand like a Peloton, who's been crushing it, who provides a great service, who is providing a great outlet, is really sad. It tells me that you're not informed, because I think that the experience of boutique fitness, the experience of coaches, and the knowledge that one-on-one personalization brings, the variety of equipment that you'll have at a gym that you're never going to, and I've got a pretty extensive home gym, but I'm never going to have at home, is never going to go away. Instead, what you're going to find is a more committed consumer. Let me give you an example. I don't think that the need to go to a gym as often is going to be there anymore. But as a trainer, you didn't have someone coming to you 7 days a week. Even your best clients would probably come to you 3 or 4 days a week, right? I mean, you know, even at a higher end gym like an Equinox. And if you have a client come to you 3 or 4 days a week, that's a pretty good client. But you don't want them just to work out 3 or 4 days a week. You want them to be engaged in fitness 7 days a week. Fitness is not, you know, it's just not a 3 day a week thing. It's a 7 day a week thing, and it's multiple sessions in those 7 weeks, not 7 sessions, because look, I even count recovery as a session, meditation as a session. Digital technology and fitness is going to help you do that. So I think as a trainer or as a gym owner, you need to embrace it, because by embracing it, by getting to understand it better, by getting to provide value to it better and context to it better, you're going to be more valuable to your client. Here's an example. I have an Apple Watch and I also wear a Polar for my fitness tracking, and they both track sleep. But neither one of those devices will tell you what that sleep really means. I slept well, I didn't sleep well. You know, what does that mean? That's where you come in as a trainer. You could come in and now sit down with the client and provide them an analysis of what sleep means and how to personalize it for them. It's a tool. It's a tool to help you do your craft better and ultimately provide better impact and help your client achieve their goals. So I really feel like gyms and trainers, as people start coming back, should understand that you've got an additional tool to embrace. And even if they have a Peloton at their house, that's great. I mean, that's the worst thing you could do. Instead, say, come into the strength sessions with me. And if you need to do cardio, you know what? We're not going to do 45 minutes on the bike. You have a Peloton at home. You can do that on the days that you're not lifting.
Yeah, I think I didn't notice the stock drop for Peloton. I didn't notice the fitness industry on LinkedIn celebrating that. And I'm right there with you that's a sad moment for me to hear, because if we look at the population of people who have a gym membership, I don't know the real number, but I imagine it's under 10% in the United States of people have a gym membership. And if we look at the number of people in the gyms who actually go, it's probably right around 50%, maybe 60% when you combine all the boutique gyms and all the big commercial gyms. And even if my 10% is off and it's double, then we're looking at 12% of people in the country actually using a gym. If a company like Peloton can get more people to experience fitness, there are going to be more people who are going to decide that they want to experience fitness in person. And it becomes a partner for you. At least that's the way I look at it.
I completely agree. Instead of looking into digital fitness as a competitor, look at it as complementary to what you're offering. What Peloton is not going to give you is the personalization. They're not going to give you the one-on-one experiences that is so valuable. Look, we are right now focused on implementing AI in a lot of our digital products. And AI is meant to make the experience more personal, but it's still not going to replace the one-on-one connection that as humans we crave. That is never going to go away. Ultimately, I think it's a tool that is going to help the entire population get healthier.
Yeah, I think a good way for trainers to look at it is everybody can watch their favorite band perform a concert on TV, and they've always been able to listen to their music on the radio, on CDs, on 8-tracks, on cassette tape, all those things. They still sold out concerts. It was never a problem. And there was digital issues in music in terms of music and Broadway and all those. You can see that stuff anywhere you want. People still chose to go and sit down and stand up and cheer. And
you talk about Broadway. I mean, talk about an industry that's going to be bouncing back in a huge way once everything opens up again. That's an interesting point, Sean. Like, I'm a Jets fan. I don't know if you're a Jets fan because you are.
The sports teams I root for make it easy for me to stop watching sports.
It's a sad state of affairs right now. But I'm also a season ticket holder, so the Jets are horrible. I still go to games, right? When I could watch it on my big screen TV and get the closest, but there's nothing that's going to replace that in-game experience. I cannot wait to go back to gyms, but I cannot wait to go back to a Jets game, as awful as they are, because there's so much that I get from the people that are around me, the section that I've been in for 10 years, taking my son to the games. You can't beat that. And the same is true, I think, for fitness too. So digital fitness is here to stay. It's not going away. In fact, the acceleration and the growth of that is going to continue. But brick and mortar facilities are also here to stay. And they're going to come back stronger than ever.
So what is a way that a brick and mortar facility who's like, look, I'm not putting workouts online. I tried the Zoom thing when the world shut down and it sucked. And the last thing I want to do is go start competing with companies like Beachbody, Peloton, NeoU, whoever's out there doing the stuff at home and doing a good job at it. I don't want to go compete with them. So I need to say that's digital. I'm the opposite of digital. I think that people who have that perception misunderstand how they can actually bring digital into their business without having to be, seated with investors and spend billions of dollars trying to grow infrastructure. How does the everyday CrossFit gym add technology to their offer without becoming a technology company?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, to your point, most of our brands have very, very big seed investors, so they have great funding and they're able to just invest a lot in technology. But for the box, you can't compete. If you try to say my Zoom session is going to replace NeoU or a class NeoU or a class from Beachbody, you're going to lose that battle every single time. But what you can do, which is something that they cannot do, is again, use data to personalize it. So if you are going to do a Zoom session, it's not just about offering a Zoom class. It's really, maybe you start tracking heart rate and you now get a heart rate report after each class and you provide feedback, or you view heart rate data in real time. there are applications that make it very easy to share your heart rate data in real time. And now you're providing feedback and say, you know what, you could push yourself more. You thought in that AMRAP, you had another round left in you because you were you were in zone 3 or zone 4, and you could have pushed yourself even more. That's encouraging. And a Neo U, as much as I love them, they're not going to tell you that you could have squeezed in another round. Mm-hmm. And to tell your client that, even in a Zoom class, that you had another round left in you and here's the data to show it, is powerful. And I think that's what you need to be thinking about it. It can't be the same coaching as if they're in the box anymore. And in fact, when people do come back into your CrossFit box, you should have an elevated experience. You should really look at boutiques like Orange Theory who've done it well, who've used data to really do it well, and say, what can I take from that to make my experience even better? It could even be, if the WOD had something like a mild run to start, or maybe it's the Murph that you guys are all doing together. Let's see what you could have done better. Let's improve on that. Let's change it. Let's use data to do it. So I think, gyms who go deeper in data and not just say, okay, well, I got 8 rounds in here, or I finished this workout in 18 minutes versus 19 minutes, and I dropped a minute down. That's good, but that works if you were all in a box. Now that you're remote, you have to go deeper to make that connection. So by adding and not just say, you might have shaved a minute time off your workout, but you're in better shape. So you could have shaved 2 minutes off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that
I think you're right. I think that there's a few things I want to say to that. Number one is I think companies like Mirror with the $500 million buyout from Lululemon, I do believe that you're going to start seeing things like biotechnology that measures heart rate and even potentially, the strength of pulse. I think you're going to start to see that in the mirror. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a personal trainer on the other side working with somebody one-on-one who can see all their data at the same time, who's saying, hey, I just want to let you know, Mohammed, your heart rate's a little bit higher than I want it to be. We're going to bring that down just a little bit. There you go. That's a better pace. I do think that's going to start to happen. And so what I believe is important is that right now, if you're in person, you can do that today. It's going to take companies like a Tonal, a Mirror, a Peloton, time to do that, testing it in small pieces of their company. And then, like you said, a year or two later, you see everybody getting it. You can do it now. If you own a gym, if you work in a gym, you can do it now. You need to.
You need to, and you could do it now. The other thing too, that if I would tell a CrossFit gym owner, is be aware of what people have available in their house, right? And I know a lot of people are already doing this, but the difference between like a Mirror or a Tonal, you need the equipment, but let's just take a Mirror. They're limited to bodyweight exercises only. But if you're coaching me one-on-one, you know that I might have, this dumbbell here, I might have another bell here, or have other types of weight or products in my house that I can use as weight, where I live, I'm by a trail. That personalization, you have to go deeper. And I know in the CrossFit community and in gyms and trainers in general, they do know their clients in a different kind of way. But I think with the lockdown and doing sessions through Zoom, like we're talking through now, you've got to go deeper, whether it is looking at wearable data, whether it's understanding their surroundings and their environment and what they have and where they live. That's how you're going to retain consumers.
Well, are you familiar with John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, and his concept of conscious capitalism?
I'm not, but
that's okay. On. So he's the founder and owner, or CEO now, no longer the owner, Jeff Bezos is, of Whole Foods. And what he talks about is conscious capitalism. And his idea is the reason why capitalism is such a necessary piece of political infrastructure is because if we don't compete, there's no incentive to improve. And if we don't improve, then we're going the opposite way, right? Flat lines get dragged down. So as I'm talking to you, a Peloton truck is driving by outside, like a Mercedes Sprinter, a Ford
I just
Transit
see it
van.
under the reflection right now. I see it, yes.
So, I mean, what I'm getting at here is the trainer in the gym, in my opinion, needs to be able to understand what the technology can't do and realize that there's a ... yet. Always. And they need to be doing that. And as the technology improves, the trainers need to be looking at how can I use the technology to stay ahead of the technology. And what you were talking about, I think, was so smart. It was if you can take a heart rate as simple as what Orange Theory did 5-6 years ago and made them a billion-dollar company, it scales you forward because no one else is doing it yet. Now, when everybody can measure heart rate, well, what are you going to do next? And it creates the competition where you can take inexpensive, highly accessible data and provide a better experience for your clients. And if you're not doing that, you're just waiting for somebody to come and take them. That's how I feel.
I agree. I think the other part, so all that is key. The other part is also specializing. The other aspect that we've seen.
You are talking my language now. Go.
It's about specializing in what you do and then bringing in those clients to serve that particular need. So I think the combining data, going in deeper, getting to know them, and then finally specializing, right? Just having, for instance, having a regular NASM certification to me, great, means nothing.
Right.
Having an L1, even L2 certification from CrossFit, great, but doesn't tell me anything about you. But you want to continue on with that?
Are you kidding me? Yes, of course. This is like what you're describing right now is my thesis.
Yeah, but that's how you attract and retain consumers, is by specializing and knowing what you're focused on, and then marketing that and saying, I'm an expert here, and here's why I can help you. You've got this issue. Well, I'm the formative expert in that area, and here's how I can help you.
Yeah, I mean, right now.
So I think those two things.
No, go. I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I was going to say, so using data from wearables, from performance, heart rate, whatever you can grasp onto, and then your environment and surroundings if you're doing it over Zoom. But then the second key component is specializing and saying, this is my specialty. Here's how I've addressed the similar problems with somebody else. That's what's going to help you attract and retain your clients, and something that the digital platforms just won't be able to do.
Yeah, I recently interviewed a medical doctor named Amy West. She went to Harvard Medical School. She now is a lead physiatrist for Northwell Health, which is one of the biggest hospital systems in the Northeast. Yep. And what she was describing on the show, one of the things was, if you're in a hospital system like Harvard's, for example, you can find an endocrinologist who specializes in thyroid issues of men over age 50 and below age 60. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, can there possibly be enough clients to service that person? Yes. And when somebody sees that, they're like, well, I can go to an endocrinologist who's going to charge me X, or I can go to an endocrinologist who just said that they specialize in me, exactly who I am, and pay Y. I'm going to do that.
10 out of 10 times, always. And it's even for me, even in my own personal journey, as I was going through trainers, I did switch trainers. Like I did have personal trainers. I did switch around depending on where I was in my life. And before the pandemic hit, I had a personal trainer who was a swimmer. Why? Because that was the weakest part of my fitness. Is I was not a good swimmer, and I wanted to improve that. So I knew that. I got some other parts understood. But here's a weak part. I really enjoyed it and I want to get better at it. So I got a trainer who's good at that particular part. Before that, it was, I had issues with running and running mobility. Well, let me get someone who understands running mechanics and can help me change my form. That's just not any trainer. It's someone who specializes in that, and someone who's heavy. I'm almost 170 pounds. I'm heavy for a fast runner. All those things matter.
Yeah, I think that's, man. I mean, like, I want to get in my car and drive to New Jersey. I mean, to Virginia right now. Just have a conversation with you all day long.
We can geek out.
It's you're talking about exactly the things that I think are important. It's the idea that you can be okay at everything and service a lot of people, and you'll be fine for a while, or you can be exceptional at one thing that you're irresistible for being exceptional at, and just have a waiting list. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And that's what we kind of preach to all of our brands, is to say, even a Peloton, or if you're going to be competing against a Peloton, everyone knows that they are not the right fit for everybody. You mentioned something earlier on in that, 10%, I think the number's a little bit higher, of people have gym memberships and even a small percentage of that have trainers. Well, that's all greenfield. I mean, everyone else here, you don't need to be competing against the 3% or 5% of people that are committed to fitness and have trainers. It's the other 95% that haven't even heard of you, that haven't even engaged in a routine yet, that haven't even started their fitness journey yet. And if you specialize and they understand you and you speak to them, you mentioned this example of the Harvard doctor, that's how you're going to get them to come to you.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing also about digital fitness too, the last point I'll make on this one is, and people miss this out, is because of Zoom and the fact that now everyone's comfortable with Zoom, they're comfortable with FaceTime because of the pandemic. That's an opportunity for trainers, because if you are specialized, it's no longer that it's someone in Long Island, that's your clientele. You could now coach someone in California. Mm-hmm. And people are okay with that because guess what? They've done Zoom training sessions.
Yeah, I agree with you. It makes it so much easier for you to enter a marketplace that previously people thought was just not as good. They wouldn't have considered it, and now they're ready to. Mohammed, you've been a phenomenal guest. I enjoy speaking to people like you who are thinking about, the box as it is, not the CrossFit box, the box. And looking at we don't need to throw the box out. We need to make the box more durable. We need to make the box travel better. We need to make the box open and close over and over and over again so we can reuse it. I think that, it's outside the box thinking that makes the box better. Do you have any parting thoughts that you would like to make sure our listeners are getting?
Yeah. I think that the key thing to understand here is being realistic and not denying reality of where we are today. Understand that consumer behavior has changed. While some things are going to bounce right back. We talk about, restaurants, Broadway, bars, Jets games. The Jets could go 0-16. The stadium will still be sold out next year. But other things have been changed permanently. And to me, there's two big areas that stand out. The first is work from home. I think a lot of companies that will shift a significant amount of the workforce to work from home at least part of the time, even once offices open up again, because now because they're used to that. The second is fitness. I think the pandemic and the lockdown has changed fitness and how consumers view fitness permanently. And as gyms reopen up, understand that you're getting a more educated, a more informed consumer that might now have invested in equipment at home. And instead of throwing that equipment away and say, you don't no longer need that, make that a part of the routine. If they purchase a wearable, make that a part of the routine. And, I think that's the biggest change, just recognizing that you've got a consumer who's now changed and evolved for the better.
I think you're right. And it's when we talk about sales and ethical sales, it's understanding that if you tell them they no longer need this, what you're actually telling them is that they made a bad decision to have it. And you're telling them in their own way, you're wrong. I'm right. I'll show you. And nobody wants to feel wrong, and nobody wants to see the person every day who made them feel like they were wrong. So welcome that into their life. I appreciate that parting thought. It was a valuable one. Thank you. Where can people find out more about you, Mohammed, and more about SweatWorks if they're interested in working with you?
Yeah, I think if you want to find out more about me, LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me. I post quite a bit on there. So just look me up under SweatWorks, Mohammed Iqbal, and then you can look at my LinkedIn profile. Or if to learn more about SweatWorks, go to sweatworks.net. It's not .com, it's sweatworks.net. And you can learn more about us there.
No one cares anymore about the com. I appreciate your time today. Thank you, Mohammed.
Sean, you got it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Active Life podcast. If you did, please be sure to head to wherever you listened to it and give us a quality review, as well as 5 stars if you can spare them. If you want more from us, feel free to follow all of our social media accounts at Active Life Professional, Active Life RX, and Dr. Sean Pastuch on Instagram. Remember, at Active Life, we believe that the healthcare clinic of the future is the gym, and the healthcare provider of the future is the coach. We also believe that future is now. Turn it up.